Hello there. I'm joined today for a contribute episode. I've got with me Patrick Antinozzi. I think I got it right.
Yes.
Yay!
Not that
Yeah,
hard.
yeah. That's good. Yeah, Patrick's joined me today for like I say, for one of these contribute episodes, just because he wants to have a bit of a natter around the subject matter of, well, what the slide said. Let me just pop that back up again. Why there's never been a better time to start your own web design business. And we don't really know where this is going. We don't know if it's going to be a 3-minute conversation or 6 hours from now we'll still be droning on about why it's the best time. But what were you thinking here, Patrick, when you reached out? What were you wanting to chat with me about today?
Kind of along the lines of, like I was telling you before, I kind of produce a lot of content for a lot of people who read my blog or YouTube or whatever, and whatever, all kinds of things. But people have a lot of questions about how to start their own web design business, and people still seem to be fairly surprised when I kind of describe how I was able to do it and how I don't know how to code a single line of code. I never went to college for any degree, never even did any paid online courses. Everything I learned was completely on the internet for free. All the information is out there, waiting to be consumed, but more importantly, acted upon afterwards. So I end up having a lot of conversations with people about why it's still a really good time to start getting into web design. Because also a lot of people feel like it's 2019, it's gonna be 2020 soon.
Yeah, very soon. Yeah.
Maybe I missed the boat. It's too late. Now we're going to get into all kinds of fancy AI designing tools, and I'm going to be obsolete. But it's still there's still a lot of opportunity to get into the web design industry, and that's kind of what I like talking with people about. So.
Yeah. Do you use are you a WordPress user? Do you like primarily focus upon WordPress and the sort of ecosystem around there, or do you use other things as well?
Yeah, so now I use WordPress. I use Elementor,
Mhm.
the design plugin that integrates with it. But I started out using Weebly,
Right.
and which is also another popular website builder. But I remember when I first started building that, or with building sites with Weebly, people used to be blown away. You're like, you made this with Weebly? Like it actually looks good. And I was like, yeah, it's like it doesn't really matter so much the tool you use, but how you use it. So, but now I'm
And
using WordPress.
yeah, so you got into WordPress, and how long have you been actually using WordPress then? How many years have you been tied to it?
Maybe about 2 years.
Okay.
Not too long.
Yeah, I think you came at a really interesting time. So Elementor was probably just sort of starting to begin its stratospheric launch. It was probably quite new at that time, and now I think it's well over 2 million installations. I don't know if that's finished websites, but certainly 2 million installs of the free, possibly, and the paid version as well. I don't know. But you settled on that tool straight away and just like kicked it out the park with zero tuition. You just played and enjoyed it and tried to figure out how it worked.
Yeah, so a big reason why I chose Weebly in the beginning was I was just starting out and it was one of the easier tools to use, very drag and drop, not a lot of back end work that I had to worry about. But it also had an awesome feature that made it really easy for my clients to manage their website as well, to make little changes and edits to their website on their own without having to contact me every time they needed a little text or photo change. So that was a really useful asset to offer my clients as well. But then as the years went by, like Weebly had their own separate version of their platform, a web designer platform specifically for web designers. But it was pretty clear that they were neglecting it. They were always updating their main Weebly platform for most of their clients who just build one or two websites. But for some reason, the web designer platform, they were just letting it slide. And which was weird because we are basically their best customers. We're hosting dozens of websites
Yeah.
with them. And I was back and forth with some of the product guys there trying to find out, like, are we getting any updates to this? I'm talking about, like, you remember when SSL certificates
Yes,
became like
yes.
mandatory.
That feels like years ago now, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
It really was
exactly.
not that long
It
ago.
wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago.
Mm.
And when Google announced they'd start punishing sites for not having it, it took Weebly over 6 months just to add that feature into the designer
Wow.
platform. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I see what
So
you mean. Yeah.
I'm
Time
like
to start
saying,
looking around. Yeah.
exactly. So I started looking for alternatives because I was naturally concerned about where Weebly was going. And I started looking into WordPress again because when I first started out, my skills weren't quite good enough to get into WordPress. But like you said, a lot of different tools and plugins had come around over the last few years. That's when I found Elementor. And I was like, this is brilliant. Like, I can't
Yeah.
believe, I wish this was around years ago.
Mm.
And that's probably why, like you said, they rose so quickly to success, millions of installs. But I felt like it was a happy alternative. So I ended up rebuilding all of my clients' websites in WordPress
Wow.
with Elementor. Yeah,
Wow. Okay, that's
because you
serious.
exactly, yeah, yeah, because you can't just naturally, they're different platforms.
Mm.
It's like trying to put like a Camry engine into a Ferrari. It's not,
Yeah,
it's
it's
not going to
interesting that
fit.
you chose to bring them all over from Weebly as well, though. That's fascinating. Rather than just sort of like, okay, they're the old clients and they'll stay on there, and anything from now on that's new, we'll put on
I
WordPress. Okay.
abandoned ship.
Yeah, no kidding. That's pretty catastrophic. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had probably took about 2 months
Yep.
to rebuild all of my clients' websites into Elementor. But
And
it
are
was
you
the best
happy?
decision I ever
Yeah,
made.
you're happy with WordPress now? Do you believe it's like where you'll be staying for the foreseeable future?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, now that my skills have grown to the point where I'm comfortable with it, like, there's a reason why it's, the most popular CMS out there.
Mm.
It really is, it's very customizable. It can meet whatever your individual or business needs are. And yeah, for the foreseeable future, I don't see any reason to switch.
Yeah, getting back to the sort of the question of why this is a great time, do you let your clients actually enjoy the experience of editing with things like Elementor, or do you build websites and then hand them over as a finished product and sort of steer them away from the WP admin area, or do you get them stuck in there and teach them how to fiddle and play and do what you do, basically?
It kind of depends on the client.
Mm.
Some are just more comfortable doing that sort of thing. So I have no problem handing over logins and like have your way with it. Others know nothing about it and don't want to get anywhere near it. So they'll still contact me for little changes or little edits here or there, which I don't mind doing. It's part of I offer a monthly management service
Yep, yep.
afterwards to host the site, maintain it, and manage it for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely depends on the client.
Yeah, there's lots of different schools of thoughts on that. I know that one of the sort of the co-host of this podcast is called David Warmsley, and he very much has that approach that he likes to give a website to a client and let them build it with him. So he gives them video tutorials and he'll explain how things are done. He's a user of Beaver Builder, which is like a competitor of Elementor, and that's his approach. My approach is quite different. I build websites, and then the intention really is to sort of hand it over and let them edit where they really need to, but most of the time they're not that bothered. But I certainly don't lock them out. Facing a sort of dilemma at the minute about how much to allow a one particular client who I've got a feeling they might break things just because
Yeah.
they seem to be fairly trigger happy. And do you know what I mean? They're like
Oh yeah.
happy to bust things up and then sort of come back and say, it's broken. Yes, it is broken.
Yeah, you've destroyed everything.
You
Yeah,
broke it.
it's kind of yeah, it's a bit of risk management, right? You have to
Yeah.
really figure out, and that's where the daily and weekly backups come in handy.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's the
Yeah.
point. Little incremental backups is my savior. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just apart from the fact that WordPress is really easy and things like Elementor, well, we say really easy. That's not entirely true, is it? But things like
Yeah.
Elementor make it significantly easier. Are there any other sort of tools that you have, maybe nothing to do with websites? Something that makes you feel like this is this is a great time, like email platforms or ways of keeping your customers in check, and CRM systems, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean everything. Like, yeah, for example, for graphic design, like I'm not a graphic designer. I don't know
No.
anything about that, but you get like a tool like Canva
Yeah.
and you can build or design some really beautiful graphics just
Yeah.
through a similar interface, a similar drag and drop style interface. Yeah, I think there's so many different tools like that in so many different sectors and so many different industries that you don't have, like, even like something like graphic design used to be, you go to school for that
Mm.
for years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously there's still, if you want to get into high level, like true custom design, you still want to get into more advanced stuff, then you're going to be beyond Canva. But for someone who's just starting out, even if you're just trying to get like a nice logo for your new business, you can design something really nice in Canva and look professional right from the get-go.
Yeah.
And kind of just grow as you grow,
Well, that's true.
learn as
Yeah,
you go.
I've not used Canva actually, but I've used similar kind of rival tools. I've used one called Get Stencil in the past, but my sort of choice at the moment is one called Pixteller,
Okay.
Pixteller, which is great. It's like it's a poor relation to Photoshop. It does a very, very slim set of features, but for things like post images and things like that, it's absolutely fine, and it comes with all of those like free stock image libraries built in. So there's a search on the left, and you type in, I want pictures of cats or whatever it might be, and then just thousands of them come in, and I can drag them in. So from that point of view, it's just a piece of cake. So I can imagine that if you're toying with the idea of setting up a web design business, this does feel like a good time. I mean, I suppose the question which will arise is, do you have the right to call yourself like a web designer or a web developer? I never know what the word is, just because you can use these tools. And my opinion is yes, essentially, if you can build a website and it looks fine and it functions and nothing's broken and all of the boxes are ticked, you're good to go. And I think I agree with you. There's so many cool tools online, and of course, increasingly, things like page template libraries, you can download. I know that
Oh
Elementor
man.
comes bundled with heaps of these things, and you can get like Katka add-on packs and all of these kind of things. And even the idea of having to build from a blank page is gone. You can build from something which is almost kind of finished, and then strip bits away and alter bits. It's great.
And that's actually that benefits not just web designers, but clients. Because if I
Mm.
wanted to, years ago, if I wanted to get a really nice, professional, beautiful website made, I'm going to be spending thousands of dollars to get something really well made. But these days, because designers have more options, they can build from template, or as you said, you can build from a site that's almost done already. You just got to make some edits and tweaks and changes. They can get a much nicer website at a much more reasonable cost.
Yeah. Is that the way you approach it then? Do you go from the point of view that because I can template a lot of this stuff and because I can minimize the amount of time, is that your model, is to drive the price down to get clients that way? Or do you kind of like endeavor to charge the same but just produce more because it's quicker for you to do it?
Yeah, I know this is kind of a big debate, pricing
Yeah.
web
Mm.
design services, and a lot of different designers have different thoughts on that. I enjoy offering really great web design at an affordable price. I enjoy being able
Yeah.
to offer that to clients at a cheaper price. I like that they have it's now an option for them. It's now accessible to them to have that quality of a website at a lower price. So I do personally choose to lower my price based on, as I've streamlined my processes and improved. I do adjust the pricing. Because I do enjoy being able to offer that to people that are small businesses that are just starting out, and they don't have a high budget. They don't have thousands of dollars to throw into a site. And, obviously I'm not going to be, I'm certainly not losing money on anything,
Yeah.
but I think I definitely prefer being able to adjust the pricing and offer it to people that would normally not be able to access that kind of service.
Yeah, I think it's a debate, isn't it? I think geography matters, depending on where you are. If you live in New York City or the middle of London or something, that you just it's just different makeup than if you were living, I don't know, in a rural part of the country or what have you. It might be that there's just a whole different bunch of clients if you're after local clients. But I do, David,
Mm-hmm.
again, the co-host of this podcast, he often makes the point that he likes to go for the more frequent, lower paid clients, um, for the reasons that you've just said. It works for him. He can make that model work, but also it kind of gets people started. And if this sort of apocryphal figure of $10,000 keeps coming up, the $10,000 website seems to be, for some reason, it's become the number that everybody's trying to achieve. And let's be honest, if I was to walk to the end of my street and enter the shop, the guy there doesn't have $10,000. With the best will in the world, he simply couldn't sum up that money. But if I could offer him a site for a half, a third, a tenth, whatever of that, then maybe I'll get a customer.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. Like, it really depends on geography, where you're living, kind of your lifestyle, your cost of living can adjust or change who you're targeting, your ideal client. Like, while I was living down in Ecuador for about a year,
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, the cost of living down there is much, much cheaper than here in Toronto. So down there, I definitely had the luxury of being more selective of which clients I want to work with. And I could afford to offer different types of services for lower end clients.
Yeah.
Now that I'm back in Toronto, where cost of living is much higher, I still offer those services, but I do also try to target some higher end clients because cost of living is higher and I want to get some higher paying clients.
Well, and also the fact is there are more people in those places. If you like to do the face-to-face meetings, if you can do everything on, FaceTime and remotely, then that's fine. But if you like the face-to-face meetings, which I actually personally do, I like to sit in the same room as people that I'm working with. It just works for me. I don't know why. Then there's more people in Toronto, and presumably quite a lot of them have got slightly deeper pockets than if you were living in, I don't know, the middle of the back of beyond. And so it does make a difference. I believe it does make a difference. So what kind of tools are you using? You mentioned Elementor, you've mentioned WordPress. Are there any other sort of like go-to tools that enable you to build your WordPress sites?
So I have like different resources. So like for like vector or graphic icons, I'll use like flaticons.com, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
I create a lot of content through blog posts and YouTube videos. So when I'm making, so what I'll do is I'll write out a blog post. I'll design a bunch of custom images through Canva. Actually, the other day I want to get an infographic done. I'm like, this would make a really good infographic. And I was able to just build it myself. Again, with Canva. I feel like I'm like sponsored by Canva at this point,
yeah.
but I should be.
That's okay. No, it's
Call me,
right.
guys. But then I was able to just build the infographic right there myself in like an hour or two instead of hiring a custom graphic designer. And then I'll end up kind of recording the blog post, like making an audio version of it. I'll turn that into a podcast. And then I'll take the audio and apply some visuals to it and make it a YouTube video. And what's made YouTube much easier is like I'm not one that really likes to be on camera much. Like what I'm doing right now is very not typical of me. So a lot of the YouTube videos I make, I apply visuals to them. And there's so many great resources for stock video now, like really high professional, not the cheesy, like, suits in a boardroom where everyone's like cheering and smiling at the camera, like actual quality custom video from real videographers and photographers. It's called Storyblocks, I think.
I've heard of it. I had a subscription to the audio side of things, and then I don't know, I didn't renew it, but it was just story blocks. I think it was called video blocks back then, and you could do audio blocks, and now it's all story blocks, and it's great. I completely agree, and it's like a la carte, isn't it? You pay a subscription, and you can just take out of the system whatever you like for as long as you like.
Yep. And so it's like $30 a month, and I get all the video I need. They always add new types of content, and it keeps my videos fresh and
Yeah. Do
professional
you
looking.
find yourself kind of like using a lot of these like lifetime deals that people seem to be so interested in buying all the time, like from AppSumo and places like that?
Hmm. I think I've only done the lifetime deal once,
Oh, okay,
and it was with Astra theme.
that was a good deal.
Yeah. And I was
You did
kind of
well there.
like, I feel like I'm going to use this a lot,
Yeah.
and this will be worth investing in and not having to pay the annual or monthly license.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier about the ability to sort of like drop in templates into Elementor, the whole Astra Sites thing, where you
Hmm.
can click a button in WordPress and a whole entire pre-built site. Now, again, it's not for everybody. Some people would think that what we're saying is sacrilege.
I know.
How could you? But if it works in your case and you like that, or even if it just gives you a dollop of inspiration, then so be
Exactly.
it. It works.
Yeah. And I mean, like the people that get upset about it, I get it. But at the same time, if you looked at web design 10 years ago and you can compare two sites, one against the other, they're both custom coded from the ground up, like
Mm,
no templating whatsoever. And then you did those two same sites 10 years later from template, they basically look the same oftentimes. Like just
mm,
because it's custom coded doesn't mean it's better. And these
yeah.
tools that have come along have shown that. Like it's not about the tool, it's about the website itself. It's about understanding how web design works. It's about user experience, how people use websites, on a psychological level. Even if you learn that stuff, that's way more important than, oh, this button was already placed here without using CSS.
Yeah. So when you sort of began on this journey, you mentioned at the beginning that you had no experience, and it sounds like you've literally gathered the experience all by yourself. You didn't do any courses or anything. How did you actually sort of get to the point where you thought, okay, I'm all right at this now? Like, was it just scouring the internet and trying to copy what was already out there?
So, well, first off, even though I didn't technically, like, I didn't pay for any online courses, I definitely got lots of help through,
Got it.
well,
Got it.
people like you guys who put all this
Yeah.
information out for free. You just consume
Yeah.
all this content and you learn. But basically, what had happened is, so my dad and I used to have a family business called Fresh Gear. He basically invented this all natural dry cleaning machine. It used ozone gas to disinfect and deodorize like sports equipment, firefighter
Wow.
gear, stuff that couldn't be put into a typical washing machine.
Yeah.
So we did that for like about 10 years. And one of our biggest customers were people that actually were entrepreneurs, people that wanted to buy a machine or two and kind of either add them to their laundromat or even just start up their own business offering, hockey gear cleaning in their small town or whatever. And so because they're just starting out, one of the first things they needed was a website. So over the course of time, people started asking us like, oh, do you do websites as well to help me get started? Because we would do like an entrepreneurial package to help them get started. So we're like, I guess we could do websites. So what would that, if we started looking into what would that involve instead of outsourcing it? Could we offer these websites for these clients? And that's when I started dabbling with Weebly and starting to build these websites for our clients. And that kind of sparked my interest. And then I started digging a little more into web design and learning about it, getting better at using Weebly, understanding the fundamentals of design. And then that kind of took me down the path. I start off if people could see the websites I first started building.
We all have this story, I think.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
they're horrific.
Yeah.
But customers were paying me for them
Yeah.
because it's all, it's like any other industry. You get what you pay for. They had a very tight budget, but so they were happy with the website. It's very simple.
Yep.
It accomplished what they needed it to. But based on my own now much higher standards, I wouldn't build something like that now. But it was fine for the time. And as long as the customer is happy with it, they get their value, then it's good. And then from there, you kind of just improve. And as you improve, you charge more like you said, I migrated from Weebly, upgraded to WordPress. At the time, I wasn't even comfortable using WordPress. But now I am. And it's just it's kind of a journey, right? And everyone has to start somewhere.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Do you see yourself doing? Is this now like what you do for a living? Are you a website builder, full time, or whatever that means? Yeah.
Yeah, full. I wouldn't say full time, but
Yeah.
it may only income. Yeah.
Do you like the sort of the flexibility that it affords? I know from my point of view, this is my home. I work in this little office from my home. It suits me down to the ground. I can stop and go and go nip out for half an hour in the middle of the day, and nobody's breathing down my neck looking at the clock. I like all of those aspects. Is that something that appeals to you? Is that a good reason to be in this as well?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Mm.
Like that was when I first started dabbling with it. I was also looking for something that I could do that was location independent. Didn't matter
Yeah,
where I
yeah.
was, as long as I had access to the internet. And that ultimately allowed me to control my own time.
Mm.
And web design was the perfect fit for that. I actually just did a whole post about how web design is the perfect fit for digital nomads, like the digital nomad lifestyle that everyone's so hyped up about these days.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, it is growing. People want to have control of their time. Like, people are tired of the typical 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, driving back and forth in rush hour. They want to have more time for the things they enjoy in life and spend time with their families and travel a little bit. And the traditional jobs just don't allow for something like that. And
Yeah.
ultimately I could go down and live in Ecuador for a year because I had that ability. I was like, all right, let's try it out. And, I lived on a beach for like $500 a month, everything, rent, food, lifestyle.
Nice.
I mean, what's nicer than that?
And heat, probably
And
some
heat,
nice
lots of sun.
heat.
Yeah. Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
What's not
Yeah.
to love?
Do you how do you find your clients now then? How do they typically come through your contact form or the telephone, or is it word of mouth or?
I invested a lot of time in SEO, producing
Okay.
content. So
Okay.
blogging over the years, that has been now it's an automated machine. People find me through my blog, through my YouTube channel, and and most of it is just stuff. It's just like tutorials. I
Mm.
essentially just prove that I know what I'm talking about.
Great.
And if someone is looking for a web designer and they have a list of 10 of them, and one guy has a bunch of videos about how he does it, they're going to lean towards that guy. Like, they
That's
already
an
feel
interesting.
a certain
Yeah.
familiarity with him, and they're like, oh, this guy
Mm.
actually knows what he's doing. He can prove it. And that's how I get all my clients. It's just through SEO. They find me.
I had a client not so long ago, and I won't tell you what niche he was in, but I asked him how his business was going, and he'd only, let's say I think it was probably about 18 months ago, something like that, moved on to WordPress. He had no site, and he was starting this business cold, absolutely from the ground. And he has a physical product which is in a very competitive niche, and he spent 3 months, the first 3 months of his business, he spent writing blog posts, really long blog posts, and his business has nothing to do with the internet. He now sells things via the internet. What I'm saying is that there was, everybody thought, this is a mad waste of your time. You should be concentrating on your business, selling this thing that you sell, and not bent over a computer when, you've got bills to pay. And he said, no, I'm convinced this is going to work. And now he ranks number one in Google for just about every single thing that could possibly be searched for, because he just kept churning them out, one post a day, big long post every single day. And he's now doing very, very, very well indeed. It's a great story.
Yep. And I always tell people who are just starting out, like, you got to be blogging. And
Yep.
I started doing it from the beginning as well. And just like my first websites, my first blog posts were horrific. Like, none of them even exist on the internet. I've removed them and destroyed all of
Remove
them.
all trace of the,
Yeah.
the embarrassing
And
post.
but you just get better. You get better at writing. You understand content better, how people interact with blog posts. And now I have long form content. Like, I have a post that's about how to start a web design business. And for a couple of years, it was number one in Google. I think it's number 3 now, because Shopify and some other big WordPress guy that they always like,
Yeah.
oh, this guy's doing all right.
$1 million businesses. Yeah, how dare
20
they?
people working on one blog post, but it's still number 3, and it's my number one post and performance wise. So
that's great.
yeah.
So you're sticking with this. This is going to be what you do for the foreseeable.
Web design?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, why not?
It's a nice business. I totally agree. Where can we find you, Patrick? What's the best place? Like Twitter, Facebook, URL, whatever you want to do.
I hate social media, so I don't have any of those.
Fair enough.
I think the only thing I have is LinkedIn, but on YouTube, I guess that's social media. Yeah, rapidweblaunch.com. My blog is blog.rapidweblaunch.com. And I produce a bunch of content there. That's probably the best way to find me. I have a little community that I've set up called Launchers for people that are looking to start their own web design business. I think we have about 350 members now. Actually, that's another tool, by the way. Mighty Networks. You ever heard of that?
No.
Okay, so I was looking at, I don't like email lists. I hate email list building. I'm like, I don't know, this feels so ancient. I can't believe this hasn't been disrupted yet. So I was looking at a way to build a community and keep people in touch with my content and stuff. And I found this tool called Mighty Networks, and you basically build your own social network. It's all self-contained within an app. And it's actually quite affordable. And I end up going with that, and you just apply it to a subdomain. So it's like community.rapidweblaunch.com. And that's where people go, and we chat there about web designing, getting into the business.
Yeah, I've often thought about that, because we for the podcast we have a Facebook group which is great, really great. But I did at the beginning like toy with the idea of maybe doing it as a forum or setting up something which mimicked a social network. I just didn't go down that route. I don't really do much in terms of personal stuff on social media, but I do quite a lot to do with web design and WordPress and things like that. I just sort of took the opinion back then that everybody was already logged into Facebook. I kind of gave up on that battle and went with that. But that's fascinating. Okay, so that's community.rapidweblaunch, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a fascinating chat. We've kind of reached just about half an hour, so I think I should probably what we say in the UK is knock it on the head, which kind of means
you didn't kick me off after 6 minutes. So
no, you managed to, you did very well. Yeah, I get you a 10 out of 10 card. But thank you so much for coming and chatting to us today. It's going to be a bit weird, but I'm going to mute the mic and then put the original slide back on. But do stay on the line and we'll have a quick chat. So thanks so much, Patrick. Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me.